is your host, Kiana, and we have a motherfucking guest. Cue the sound. Cue the sound, right? We have a guest. I am so lit right now because we haven't had a guest in a long time. And this isn't any old guest. Not to say any of y'all are any old guests. But this is my girl, Janiece. And we have known each other for...
coming on a decade now.
Yep. Almost a decade, which is insane. And I am just so honored and blessed to have this, I'm gonna say collaboration. I'm not gonna call you a guest. Have this collaboration right now because Janiece and I reconnected about a month ago and we're going through the same themes. And if you know me, connecting with somebody that is going through the same shit that you're going through, that can offer insight, offer just that like mutual what the fuck sis, like how do we do this, what's the move, how do we move through this, where's the support, it really means a lot to me. So to have you on the pod like this is so incredible. And today we are going to be talking about breaking out of society, returning to self, what that means, what that journey is like. I feel like even the theme in our culture and our society has been a lot of undoing and returning and undoing and shedding and figuring out what's working and what's not working. Y'all know me from my past episodes. I've been talking a lot about my own journey of returning to self, realizing things that haven't really been working, that have been really deeply ingrained, and having to undo that, it can be painful. It is exciting, but it can be painful, and I feel like a lot of people skip over that pain sometimes and just return to self, just find yourself, flowers. Yeah, no, it can be rough and tough. So I'm really excited to jump into that convo. Before we dive in, I'm going to give my girl a minute to introduce herself, tell us how she would like to be known to us.
Okay, obviously, thank you for having me on. It is such an honor. I have loved watching you over the years and am so proud of you for everything that you have built, because you are such a lesson in consistency that I am taking note from. So I am just blown away and can't say thank you enough. So I am Janiece. I am daughter of Lanisa, daughter of Sheila, a daughter on a technicality of Mary, but in spirit and love, daughter of Grandma Higgins. And so I guess since we're talking about breaking out of society and you know the official way we're supposed to, like what do we do and how titles.
Yeah, it gives me anxiety. Yeah.
I guess sticking to theme, I am an entrepreneur. I have my own business, consulting situation in which I help small business owners kind of find their spark and give them the resources what they need to move forward. It's called Witness in Color. I get to witness incredible people doing incredible things. Outside of that, I'm also a Ianifa/Olorisha, which we'll get into that later. I'm an artist. I love to paint and all things colorful. I'm a traveler. I am traveling and coming out with some really exciting things within the week of recording this. So, yeah, I think that covers it. That is who I am. I'm Janiece.
Oh God, what a nice intro. Anytime people ask me that, my head goes like, what do I say? That was beautiful. I love that. I really did. Wow. Okay, so that kind of builds off of my first question. And I do have to say, when I was writing this question, and the question is, what is your foundation? What society did you come from? I think it was maybe 2 years ago when I realized we do not all live in the same damn society. Like, I thought, we're in America, capitalism. Like, there are some things that everyone experiences, but especially as a black woman, I feel like I'm in a different world sometimes. And when people talk to me about their struggles, I'm like, what? Like, no, I'm like in the opposite realm. The fuck? Like, it's crazy. So what society did you come from? What's your foundation?
Yeah. So Side note, I agree with you. That completely like blew my mind when I started to deconstruct certain things, because I was like, yeah, you didn't also go through purity culture? That completely didn't derail you and fuck up your whole idea, the idea around relationships,
Yeah.
self-worth, around everything. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Right. It's like, the fuck? I thought we were going through this.
So I am born and raised in Southern California, San Fernando Valley. For those who don't really know specifics, I'm from LA, you know. Within that, I would say I left and went to college in Northern Arizona, which is how we met. I was the first in my family to graduate college. My family is one of, I don't know how to describe it. This part might have to be clipped up or whatever, but it's like, my family definitely, we held our head high. I'm born Baptist as well. So my dad played the keyboards in church. My mother was head of the children's direction, not, what was it called? The children's church. Not just church, the section, like all of it.
Children's ministry.
There we go. Words. Thank you. And so we were at church 6 out of the 7 days of the week. And so,
oh shit. Okay.
However, that was like probably my fault too, because I'm a Taurus rising, and maybe that's it, maybe it's not, but you give it to me, I'm taking it to the veins. Like, you're telling me that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. I'm there with it. I'm always on the children's, I was teaching children's baptismal classes at 10 years old. I was on the usher board. I was on the praise dance team. I was helping in the kitchen. I was like the golden child at Wednesday night Bible study, because I knew my Bible. And it was wild because, again, I think my family was with the shits. I asked for your purity ring, like that. Like, I was that level of
okay.
Who was in it. And so not only that, but when it came to school, I was taking 5 AP classes in, high school type of shit. I was captain of the track team. I was captain of the soccer team. Like, it was that type of like involvement. I don't want to say like not keeping up with the Joneses, but it was giving the American dream.
Yeah.
So certain things happened in my family, with, my parents getting divorced and my brother passing. It was definitely 2-parent household. You gonna do right, first daughter type of shit. And so when I had left to college, I feel like I was definitely still Christian. I, held all of that all the way through college. But I always found myself in like leader type situations. I was a peer Jack mentor, so I was mentoring out-of-state freshmen for pretty much sophomore year till till graduation. President of BSU, VP in the marketing. So it was like I don't take my responsibilities lightly, and I will take it to the head if you let me. So very focused, very passionate, very driven. But again, I feel like when you're a first gen, when you're maneuvering certain things, you're not really rewarded for that shit. It's kind of an expectation, and it's like, oh, okay. Wait, what do you mean you got a B? What do you mean you got a D? That's not like you. You grounded. It's like,
okay.
Oh, but nobody said anything the 7 semesters straight when I got straight A's. But all of a sudden, someone's struggling and we have an issue. So it was that type of expectation around perfection.
Ooh.
Which I comes with Christianity, comes with Baptist Christianity. Like, it's not a show, but it's like, hey, we go to church, we wear our best. On first Sundays, we put on our white. Like, come on, get in formation. And I feel like that was really the foundation that I had. It was, these are generations of people who got in line and did what the fuck they were supposed to do. Get it together, Janiece. Come on, let's go. And so, yeah, I love my family. Like, we are a family of go-getters and people who do things differently. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, totally. No, as you were talking, I was literally feeling the pressure. I I was feeling the pressure, like, wow, my mom's side of the family is Baptist too. And I just remember, like, I didn't grow up there in Houston. I didn't grow up in Houston, but when I visited, it was just like and I was that, like, out of state cousin that's just like, what the fuck? I don't want to, like, no, like, do this. Like, this is crazy. And so I feel the pressure as you were talking, and I can imagine how that affected you. But you tell me, what was the effect of that? How were there mental health struggles through that?
For you to say that, I think that did validate something. When I would come home, it would feel like pressure. Like holidays, I started growing up becoming the Grinch because I have such a big family on both sides. And it was hard. It was hard because no one made me really choose. You know, okay, you're going to spend Christmas here. And so as a child, I was having to delegate and show up, you know, get my sister dressed, make sure my brother was good. Okay, bet we're going to drive 2 hours to Eastville, but then we're going to spend time in Palmdale with my dad. Okay, but then we're going to go to Hawthorne with my grandparents because I also want to see that side of the family. So I felt like every time I came home, I was having to, again, show up as the perfect daughter. And again, nobody probably articulated these expectations on me. It was something that I just kind of took on. So I'm throughout all of this, I'm not trying to blame family. I'm not trying to air grievances. This isn't my trauma. This is something that I'm proud of and I'm working through because I love my family. And I loved showing up and I loved that. But I also didn't realize that it was probably running me ragged and creating levels of like anxiety within me. That I don't know. Probably as a 15 or probably 18-year-old, I shouldn't have to choose between where we're going to pick and, you know, spend the holidays. But that was just my reality. And I feel like we were all doing our best with the reality or the cards that we were dealt. And now, as I'm an adult and pick and choose when I get to come home, I feel like that did kind of feed into me not coming home as often. You know, but now it's this sweet spot of like, okay, I'm here. If you want to show up and come see me, this is where it's at. If not, then I will make time. And I'm sorry if I can't see you every year. You know, those boundaries start to come into place and boundaries of my love start to like, okay, shine through of like, okay, Janiece is not going to run herself ragged because those who love me will also show up and meet me where I'm at. People will come to Atlanta when I was living out there. People will come to, you know, Florida when I was out there. People will show up. And I have to articulate those needs as well because this is a give and take relationship now. So expectations, sure, but also like pressure. Pressure is just another form of love, in my opinion.
Okay. I like that. I like how you're framing this. So I do have to touch on, you mentioned that maybe throughout this produced anxiety, but in the moment, and also tying into having a Christian background, because I don't know if you're seeing on social media, a lot of people are like, I broke out of the Christian church and like, this is my story type of thing. Did you feel brainwashed? Did you feel like, did you have this split where like, I'm doing this, but did you feel brainwashed? I just have to ask.
So yes, and this is a yes and response.
Okay.
Because I have a cousin who I was speaking to, and they had a very different relationship. And I was like, what do you mean? Do you not feel brainwashed? Do you not feel like you were tricked and bamboozled? And they had such a different relationship with all of it to where they came to a point where they were like, well, yeah, maybe structure was good. Maybe containers were good. And I was like, but again, I have to realize who I am. And so for me, you couldn't tell a child like me certain things without me like, oh, it's either this or hell. So it was knowing me as a child who I lived in extremes. And so I was having dreams about the end of the world. I thought I was going to hell because I was doubting certain things that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to hell for X, Y, and Z. And then, you know, you start living and seeing potholes into things and you start asking questions. And it's just like, but wait, A plus B is not equaling C here. And now I'm getting in trouble for asking questions. Now me commenting on certain things is getting me looked at sideways.
That makes sense. No,
and so it's like, not that I felt brainwashed, it was just like, oh shit. Nothing I could say, like, because then you can't really have discussion, about this with certain people. And I must say, I am blessed that one of my best friends for life that I grew up with in the church, we are still like soul sisters to this day. We have both gone through this process of like deconstructing. And there are certain parts where we're just like, holy what the heck was that? That was wrong. But again, that was also very human. And so on the other part, I'm like, oh, the Black church is definitely, I'm a product of the Black church. I am such a product of the Black church. Their scholarship committee got me my first laptop, my first printer for college. Every time I came home, they pulled me to the front and was like, what you been doing, Shawty?
Yes, I love
After
that.
I would tell them like my new whatever I was doing, they would in unison scream, "We are so proud of you." And it made me feel seen and heard, and they gave me responsibility growing up. And so, not that I felt brainwashed, it was just a real sense of like, oh, I took that shit to the head.
So I really like how you understand who you were as a person, who you are as a person, and how that affected your environment, and like that cycle, that return cycle. Wow. Okay. So we have, all right, some perfectionism, Baptist church, high expectations, family structure, pretty solid family structure growing up. Okay. So when did you start to break out? When did you have that like calculation moments where you're like, when was that moment for you where you're like, I think I need to start breaking out of this? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so it was actually towards the end of high school for me. Okay. I was really struggling and dealing with like suicidal ideation. There was a lot happening within my family. There was a lot happening probably in the world. Like, let's be honest. And with certain levels of perfectionism and just standards that I had set for myself within my family, within my community. And then my brother had passed, and he was like my everything. My family's like divorce was like really hard on me as well.
So sorry, when did that happen? When did your parents get divorced?
Yeah, that was the summer of 7th and 8th grade.
Okay, so all right, so solid family structure up until middle school.
Yeah.
Then they got divorced. Okay.
And then my brother passed, what was that? The summer between 9th and 10th grade. And so...
Oh, that's kind of back to back. Okay.
And it was interesting because it was like watching your broken family, like any of the like remaining pieces like shatter. And I laugh now because it's like, oh shit, like we all just really needed a hug. And so I was going through it, but then I also feel like, again, and this is kind of reiterating, like the whole reason that I was so like taken to the head with Christianity was because I realized that I had one foot in this world and one foot in the other world. And so I needed a structure for my spirituality. And so now looking back, I can realize, oh, Janiece needed a reason to stay here. Janiece needed a vehicle to make sense of the dreams, of the visions, of the feelings, of all of it. And so when things were really hard for me towards the end of high school, feeling like really extreme like feelings and kind of, again, like I said, struggling with suicidal ideation, but then dealing with that suicide is a sin. So that was also a really big, like, no, this is a sin. And I remember researching it. It was like, okay, those who are, because you remember all the school shootings were happening around then. So as a Christian growing up, it was like, are you willing to die for Christ? If a shooter comes in and says, if you're a Christian, stand up right now, I'm about to kill you. Are you about to stand up and say that? And so it wasn't just, because I was thinking that was my easy way out. I was like, send somebody in. Just send somebody in. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to be a soldier for Christ. And then I'm going to rise up under the throne of Christ on the day that you blow the trumpets. That's my easy way out. And it was like, dang, the chances of that are pretty slim. So then it was like, okay, suicide is a sin, but then I'm also born in God's image. And in Mark, it talks about how if God can provide for the birds and the bees, like, who is he not to provide for me? His beloved, like his child, his everything. And it was so wild because then it was like, well, you also said you give me all the desires of my heart. So why am I not having a good time? Why are not the people around me having a good time? Why don't people like around me like themselves, who call them Christians, who call them your children? Why are they depressed? If they have God and God is all they need, why is shit not working out? And I feel like that was my like, oof, my pause. Hold on, this isn't adding up. A plus B is not equaling C. Because I can't leave, because it's a sin. You're not going to send something off me because we here. But the formula you've given me isn't working. And I'm supposed to wait until I die to reach the land of milk and honey when they're here who are succeeding, who are thriving and living well lives. Something's not adding up. Hopefully. And so I feel like that was when my brain kind of broke. And I was like, fuck it. I'll leave the state and go to college, you know?
Uh-huh.
I don't have my brother to like call and ask, how do I do this? How do I apply for FAFSA? How do I do any of this? You know, I'll just fuck it. I'll leave. Mm-hmm. Fuck it. I'm gonna stay. I'm not enjoying myself. It's cold here. We were 2% of the campus as Black people at NAU. I don't know about you, but after freshman year, all my friends left. They transferred. They got the heck up out of NAU. But I was like,
God. Oh, why didn't I do that? No, that's a whole nother episode. That was very depressing. So depressing. That could be a whole nother episode.
Looking back, I was like, why didn't you transfer, babe? And I was like, who would have thought I had choice to do that?
I didn't even, yeah, but then meanwhile, I have other friends. Yeah, you're right. Other people around me are transferring like it's nothing. Yeah, why did we? Okay, yeah, that's another episode.
We'll go ahead.
But my question is, so when this started, when you were like, this is not adding up, and then you say, because I know that experience too, growing up in the Baptist church. Yeah, what discussion? Discussion? Like, if that's like not a word, like what? So when you were going back home, did you visit a lot when you were at NAU? Okay, so what was that experience like? Did you get family pushback? Were you talking to them about it? Did they notice, like, Janiece's?
No, because I must say, college, in the beginning, I was going home maybe like every chance I had. And then I would say towards the end, you know, I had a lot of friends in Phoenix too. So I feel like I started going to their house for like Christmas and Thanksgiving. But the real, like, because again, when I started, because I was going to, I don't know if you remember, there was a Christian group on campus that I started going to. And I was like, this feels culty. This don't.
Uh-huh.
I would go home and like go to church and it would feel good, but it wasn't a real starting to like, oh, I'm over here and I was raised over here and I'm starting to like separate myself. That didn't really happen until later. And then it happens like really quickly. But I would say it was the last maybe like 10 years of like, I don't know if we still fit in this structure anymore, guys. But not saying anything, and I'm still showing up as the perfect daughter. I'm still showing up, and I'll go to church with you guys. I'll show up, and I'll go to all the family reunions and family functions, or I just won't come home, and I'll call my parents. I will call my grandparents. I will do what I can with what I have, and then I would say maybe like the minute I moved to Atlanta, that's when all of the like the percolating and the deconstructing and the thoughts, that's when shit kind of like manifested. Like, all right, here we go.
So when was that? What year was that?
So that was 2019.
Okay. And what was that experience like? You moved to Atlanta. Why'd you move to Atlanta? I mean, yeah, but why'd you move to Atlanta?
So I would say, and back to your previous question too, of like, you know, what was the thing that kind of made you begin to break out? So when I started to see like A plus B wasn't equal C, because I was at a standstill. And I believe in hard work. I believe in, work is supposed to, or life is supposed to be elbow grease, like we're supposed to be able to put in the hours, put in the shots. But when you're trying to break down a closed door that God closed, that we're never supposed to open in the first place, there's a difference. And so when I say F it, I'm gonna just go to college out of state, even though I wanted to go to Azusa Pacific up the street, whatever. And I kept falling into those like, F it, I'll go. F it, I'll do it. F it, I'll drive from California to Florida to work at Disney because I understand I have to work my way up to eventually work at Burbank, Disney, to like live well, all that jazz. Bump it, I'll do it. Bump it, I'll leave Disney, go back to California because this isn't working out. And then I get a call of like, come to Atlanta. I have a job for you, but I need you to be here. Bump it. The next day I put in my 2 weeks. I was there within 2 weeks.
Wow.
Got in my little car, drove cross country for the third time by myself. Like, bump it, I'll do it. And so that's how I ended up in Atlanta. Like,
okay.
Just saying yes. And it was so interesting because saying yes, I started to ask myself, like, well, I'm starting to find myself in a very, like, 180 of how I was raised in spaces that don't really align with the Christian Baptist, like, perfect daughter type of structure. So it's like these doors that are opening and the success that I'm seeing, I'm starting to feel good in my choices. The yeses that are coming, they're starting to like make sense. I'm starting to see the fruit of my labor, like, and it looks good on me, But again, it's not in alignment with Christianity. It's not in alignment with. So I'm like, oh, okay, wait. Then you start to ask, well, who's opening these doors then? Because if it's not the Christian God,
ears, the gate, yeah.
So that's when I would say 2019. I came out there for a job, but I feel like what I practice now, I am an Ifa practitioner. That is an African religion that comes from Yoruba land or present-day Nigeria. And it's so funny because I would say 2019, I was out here. I could work remote, so I was traveling. We was everywhere. And then I sat down for the 2020 pandemic and really sat, finally started grieving things that were present in my body, but I hadn't really taken the time to process before. And then at the same time, I was like grieving my brother and doing a lot of what I call now like ancestor veneration. And in the process, got sucked up and Ifa called my name and they're like, baby girl, you ours. And the spiritual gifts started popping off. Doors start opening. Doors that were probably always open and according to my destiny and who I'm meant to be in this world. It just really started to make sense. And so when we talk about, when did I start to break out of that societal structure? It was like 2019, shit started to make sense, yo. And I was like, oh, this feels good.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I feel it in my tummy, this little like, that's an incredible feeling. And to also just have that confirmation, that constant confirmation where you're like, you can't, I love when the universe is like, you can't deny it. I know you see it. And you're like, yeah, I can't, like, it's there. I can't even say it's not there. I want a little skip around a little bit because the fifth question ties into what you just said. With your spiritual practice, and you kind of already said it, but how did that aid you into breaking out? I imagine it was just this, like, a path opening up, like a major confirmation, but how did that help push you through?
When you say push, it was push. It was like, hi, thank you for accepting this. We have work for you to do. So it was like door after door after door was opening in a way that I was just like, oh my gosh. But it was like I started learning the tools, and when I say it was easy and it flowed, and I was just like, wait, and it started to make sense. Because the questions that we have with Christianity, what a lot of people say they're deconstructing is like the hypocrisy and the what's the into like the where it raises a question, but then it like causes another question, and it doesn't really answer itself, and it doesn't really make sense. Whereas, for example, we'll say an example, right? God is omnipresent in Christianity, does all the things. But if I'm trying to be Christ-like and made in God's image, right? I'm like, as I'm owning this business, as I'm a community leader, the whole nine, Jesus had goons though. Jesus had help. Jesus had a mother and a father who poured into him. So why does my God not reflect that? Why does my God have anything? And so why does my God have to be the main and only thing and the only
Yo.
If it's not God's voice, then it's a demon.
Yo.
So then for me to come into African theology, and it's like, no, God created Orisha to go help him in the creation, because God has help. God created help. God delegated. So as a Black woman who sees, myself in God with the womb, with the creation, I'm like, yeah, I'm not supposed to do this by myself.
What?
I'm supposed to ask for help. And again, if there's this whole spiritual war that's happening, and Christians are the main ones to see this, and there's a Christian, like, what is it called, spiritual warfare. But you mean to tell me there's only demons and there's only God, and you think God don't have help? And ancestors, the people whose blood runs through my veins are demons. So for me, that's like, get your discernment up. Because as someone who has one foot in this world and another foot in that world, that's not what I know to be true. And so then you start getting into other practices that validate what you feel, what you see, what you dream of. And it has names for it, and it has ritual around it, and it has practice and everything validating. And you're like, oh, but in Christianity and what I was raised in, I was told to pray it away. I was told to ignore it. I was told to, in the name of Jesus, I cast you away. You ever wonder why you got spiritual attacks, babe? You ever wonder why you can see certain things, why you're having dreams about certain people in your family and energies? No, it's all demons. Anyways, let me stop.
No, you're preaching to me. I'm feeling everything that you're saying. It's hitting, because I had the same questions growing up, the same confusion, and I felt like a fucking demon in church. I'm like, I fucking hate this. Like, what's going on? And yeah, to have that validation. And then you said it was, I love that you said easy. I love that. Ease, I feel like in our society, something like, oh, that was easy. Like, you gotta grovel. Like, why is that easy? And so when you just said the word easy, that's so soothing. That's so soothing. And it's like, yeah, some things in life, it's like that, some hard things, when you come out of them, should feel easy. And so you saying that just really, like, I love that. And so my next question is, you're seeing what wasn't serving you as far as like Christian ideology, but have you returned to anything? Have you integrated anything? Some things that, I don't know if it's maybe like practice or values. Are you bringing them back and realizing that maybe that they're okay to have or feel that they're a part of you? Or has it been just relinquishing everything? What has it been like for you?
No, I would say the exact opposite. I've embraced, and that piece of me that was Christian, I've kept her near and dear right here with me the whole ride. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because someone eventually was like, you're not Christian, right? You're going to have to tell your family you're not Christian. And it was such like I know that. Do I necessarily have to like stand on a mountaintop and be like, I'm not Christian, when I know how Christians think? I know why they think like that. I know the duality of like, well, if you're not Christian, you're going to hell and I have to pray for you and your soul. We don't need all that energy. And I very like the fragileness, low-key, of Christianity. And so there's a certain level of compassion that I've carried with me for baby Janiece, who, again, she was a spiritual person who had one foot in this world and one foot in the other world. So to this day, I thank her for her discipline. She was a praying, mother-loving child.
Yeah.
She journaled and talked to God regularly, you know? What else? So I've honed in on her discipline when it comes to saying yes and showing up consistently for spirit, for myself, in this space. Because when you learn how to work spirit, when you learn that when you tap into these energies and you're supposed to get something in return, people don't want to talk about that. But it's like, I'm sorry, babe, but if you are constantly calling out to your God and struggling and not able to pay your rent and not able, like, is what are you getting out of that relationship with your God? And that goes to any relationship.
Yeah.
I love how I'm starting to get into, oh, you should avoid transactional relationships. It's not about transaction. It's about, if I pour into you, you should be automatically pouring into me. And again, if your faith, if your whatever requires that you pour your absolutely everything to where you can't pay your rent, to where you're not happy and you hate yourself, and the only return is you're going to get is when you die. None of that in this realm. I can't subscribe to that. And I question that. So again, sorry to veer off the topic of the question, but I'm like, nah, I brought in discipline. I brought in the ability to research, the ability to question God, because that's what I was doing. I was questioning and I was conversing and we was talking when we was praying. And so, yeah, I don't hate her. I don't blame her. I try not to be hard on her.
That's beautiful. That really ties into a lot of aspects of the selves that I'm seeing in mental health right now. Your inner child self, your shadow self, self. And I do sometimes, and I've gone through this myself, so I'm not trying to hate on anybody, but sometimes when I see these videos of people struggling through Christianity or whatever society that they're breaking out of, there is that hate or disgust, or I can't believe I was like that, or I can't believe, and then hating the people that fed into that. But just that compassion, because that was you, and you love you, and to just still keep that. And even what you said now, because I'm kind of going through the same thing as I opened up my spiritual practice. I'm definitely doing shit that, like, people would be like, are you a demon? Are you possessed? Like, if they knew that I was doing it. Oh my God, I'll never forget. Sorry, this is just a little story. This just came to my mind. Because my grandma, I hear her laughing now. Okay, yeah, we're cool. I hear her laughing now because I'm like, Grandma, what? I went to go visit her and we were talking, I don't even know how we got on this subject, but I was telling her about Buddha, because I think I was in high school doing world religion. I was like, yeah, Grandma, like, I have a little statue of Buddha in my room. And she's like, oh, you're not supposed to pray to any other god. And I'm like, Buddha's not a... What? And I remember just being... And that was like... And other members of my family were like, you have the statue of Buddha? And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? But you just said, like, you don't gotta megaphone it out. Especially if you know it's gonna cost. Like, why would you do that? Because that was honestly one of my questions. Like, so have you told your family? And I'm just like, I'm really glad that you just framed it like that. Like, why? If I know it's gonna, why?
That is not about hiding, because I want to make it very clear. I know who I am. It's in my Instagram bio. My mama and my daddy follow me. My sister follow me. Like, if you ask me about my blessings and where I get them from, it is from specific work that I do. It is about, like, that is the framework that I function from. I am not Christian to this day. And I have no problem telling people that. I have no problem posting about it. I will shout it from the rooftop in my own platform, in my own way. But I think Christianity taught me too. And I loved my godmom at the time. She was like, the truth does not need you to defend it. And so in Ifa, I love that there's also not a, like, evangelism part to this. We did not need to go town to town saying like, you need to convert.
Yeah.
And so, because again, it's cultural. It's about destiny. You either accept your destiny or you're oblivious to your destiny. You either accept these tools that highlight and make destiny kind of a little bit easier because you know the energy that you're working with, or you don't. And so, again, knowing what Christianity is to my family, knowing what Christianity is to my friends. And then, again, I think you mentioned too, I was like, I do apologize, and I've apologized to a couple of friends. In high school, I was definitely a Bible thumper. I was definitely like condemning friends for having premarital sex. Like, and I've apologized. Because again, you're talking to somebody who doesn't have like an in-between. I was like, oh my gosh, my friends are going to hell. So I thought the number one way that I could show them love was to evangelize to them and be like, no, turn, repent.
Have mercy. I love that.
But again, now I'm like, oh shit, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Don't take charge to my head, not my heart. She meant well.
No, but you even just said it was out of love.
In my version of love.
My version of love. No, I totally get that. Not a Bible thumper. No, I love this. No, I love this transition, hearing about this transition. Because I knew you were Christian, but I know. I love this.
I feel like I had such chilled out. And it was funny, when you talk about side tangents, I was like, I feel like men also knew, like, I was saving myself for marriage. And it was just like, you don't need to date me. I dated one guy who loved sex. And I was just like, you don't have to date me. Or, pause, we can talk. And you can go have your fun, your version of fun. But again, don't get mad when I, go have my fun too. My version was talking to other men. And of course, that was a big issue. You can't do that, Janiece. No. But then a couple months in, guess who gets caught sleeping with? So it was just a really weird, like, I felt like in college, I definitely chilled out, and I wasn't the Bible thumper, and it was very much so, like, this is just me and what I do, and how I tap into spirit. And whoever decided to mess with me, that was a choice, and I always made it clear up front, this is kind of how I move. But men, they love to think that there's some wiggle room or that they'll change your mind. And it's like, nope, this armor, what does she call it? This helmet of salvation.
Yeah, and they see it. I realize men are, I'm trying to like not be so anti-men. But they see it as a challenge. They see everything as a challenge. And I'm like, it's not a challenge. Like, you're going to go to jail if you keep thinking that this is a challenge. Like, this is not a challenge.
This is not, you're going to end up in jail. Stop it. But that, wow. Yeah. So the Bible thumping chilled out, I must say.
No, I see it as I love this flow change that you're describing with your journey. And with a lot of things that I'm realizing, like healing, grief, more things that I probably, just taking care of your mental health. Do you think that we always have something to break out of? Or is it like you break out and now you're out? Or do you, like the next thing, what was I looking at? I wish I had it in front of me, but they were talking about like the stages of spiritual awakening. You're in this stage and like you think you know everything, and then you go to this stage and then you're upset with the people that your foundation. Then you're at this stage where you want to help everybody, and it's like they were describing as something you always have to break out of. Do you see it like that? No, how do you see it?
Not at all. And so I'm a daughter of Oya, and Oya is an Orisha within the Yoruba culture as well. She is the Orisha of change, of wind, of all of the things. Definitely something to go off and research. If this is your first time hearing, Oya, to those listening. But as a daughter of hers, I see her kind of force and hand on my life. Because things are always changing. Things are always tearing down and starting from scratch. As a devotee, as somebody who's been initiated into her world of just whirlwinds, it's like the uninitiated mind would think that there's always something to break out of. The some who doesn't accept change would think that there's is always like this new level that I have to like rah rah. But it's like, yo, I believe honestly, as we start to, you know, acknowledge and see that things are supposed to die, seasons are supposed to come to an end. And when we do that, when we can acknowledge and be like, oh, the season's just over, we can start to move like water. And I feel like, again, being a daughter of Oya, it's really helped me in this realm, because again, it's like things have always shifted in my life constantly. You know, like it was always one thing after the other, to where someone could look at my biography and be like, oh, big girl, are you okay? But it's like, no, you start to learn to roll with it. And when you stop looking at things as hard and start looking at it as alignment, and spirit's just going to continue opening doors for me because I'm doing my part. You know, I'm just going to show up. I'm going to put in the elbow grease. You know, if you give me the door that I'm supposed to be walking through, if you give me the task at hand, I'm going to show up to my fullest ability. But it's spirit's job to drop the blessings in my lap. It's spirit's job to handle their part to make sure that I'm prospering in this life, that I have the tools that I need, the resources that I need, the community that I need. You know, the fact that I'm in your realm right now. I'm like, oh, this was spirit. This was not me. But again, it was my job to show up and say, yes, I would love to be on your podcast. It was my job to be prepared for this. It was my job to make sure my lighting was good, and that, you know, to call you beforehand and be like, yo, can I say this? It was my job to show up. And again, I might say like, oh, we breaking out and leveling up in this season. This is flowing of destiny, baby. I'm just showing up.
That takes away the mental struggle. Because if I'm being honest, my brain has been, the black and white has been causing, and lately I've just been like, I do not think it's like this. I do not think it's supposed to be like this. I'm a water sign. I just naturally flow. And then I feel like it's always like this cycle. And I'm like, but I'm still in, but how do I integrate? And it's like, shh, just go. Like, why the pressure of, I see. Okay, yeah, I really feel that so hard. I'm so glad you said that, huh?
I'm gonna add in too, this journal that is launching next week is actually a system for that. It's called Summer's Over Interlude, and little pluggy plug.
Plug your shit.
But it really is what, again, this is a practice for me. Learning how to grieve and celebrate and move on. Just like you said, wait, I'm still over here and life is pulling me in a whole different direction, is expecting more of me. What do you mean I have to show up over here while I'm still sad and crying my eyes out back here? Hold on, pause, wait. But life does not stop. So how do we adjust to that flow? And so with this, it was kind of like a journal in which we're able to gather data on ourselves. And I'm really excited because I'm a Taurus rising, so I need you to make a take. I don't care about the woo-woo, like, cliche verbiage to get you through to, what is the routine? What is the exercise? Like, what is the thing tangibly that I can do to embody this? And so that's what the journal is. It's 3 exercises in which we pause, we reflect with nature. So in September, not in January, in the middle of winter, when everything's dead around us, but we pause, we reflect, and then we take winter to grieve. And then we decide, what are we celebrating? So what are we building upon? So we're not restarting every year. So it's like, no, pause. This really hurt me back in over the summer when things were moving fast, when it was hot outside and the energy was like here. So now when the energy's here, I'm going to flow with the earth right now. And I'm going to grieve. I'm going to cry. I'm going to create ritual around it. So that's also what we're missing as a society. We don't have grieving ritual. We don't have celebrations for our generations, where we're not buying clothes, we're not getting married, we're not having children to the degree that our parents were. What are our milestones? What are we celebrating? And I'm done like trying to fit into their frameworks of, you know, oh, I need to own a home. In this economy, it does not fit for me. And that's but what else am I celebrating? What else am I working towards? And is that okay? So this is that validation. That journal is the validation of like, nah, you have seasons, bitch.
Yes.
All right, let's start creating new ritual around it.
I love that. Wow. I can't even, I'm like, I am so good shook. I don't even know what to say. That's incredible. Wow. And I'll definitely have that plugged as well when we launch. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited. It's dumb. I can't. But you already kind of touched on this. But in the breaking out of society, returning to self, where are you? And do you feel peace? Where are you on this?
Oh, we had the jump off point, I feel like. So I'm in a personal year 2 right now. So the year before last was like an end of a big cycle. I've made it to the other half of my Saturn return. So we survived. Wait, isn't that a sign that? No. With all this Diddy stuff happening, sorry, you know what side of TikTok I'm on, right? Okay, anyways. I'm at the jump off point. I am really starting to catch my stride. I feel like I've done the work. I've gone to a lot of therapy. I've invested in creating systems and routines around what makes me feel good, what allows me to create in my authenticity. And now I'm like, oh, y'all, prepared to be sick of me. And I know I've said this before, but I'm like, oh, no. Like, the magic is here to support me in all of my new endeavors, to support me in this, like, yeah, I started as an entrepreneur last year, but now I'm owning that shit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm about to, like, start this docu-series, and it's like, oh, a YouTuber at almost 30, this is what we're doing. But it's like, no, it's so much bigger than a YouTube channel. Like, I have vision, you know, that I've done the research on. I've shown up for myself. And now I'm like, oh, now I owe it to myself to deliver. So I'm like, oh, it's game on.
You're so ready. Are we? I'm like saying it, and as I'm getting this, I'm like, I gotta get, am I ready? I have no words. I'm so fucking excited for you. And I really appreciate you sharing yourself, being so authentic and vulnerable and honest. And I know there's more. We gotta do this again. I feel stuff underneath. I'm like, there's more. And it's just a privilege to collaborate with you. So you already talked about the ebook you dropped, but tell us what is happening. Where can we find you? What's coming up?
Yeah.
Let the people know.
So I'm actually going live with my business and putting it out into the world. Like, I've been working on referrals and aligned contracts recently, and now I'm like, oh, now I get to tell people. So that's also launching next week. And so if you have ideas or things that you want to bring into fruition and don't really know where to start, like, I got options for you, babe. And that's called, again, Witness in Color. There's a docu-series because I love to travel, and I feel like that is my inherited technology. So we're starting on YouTube, but I'm like, nah, this is a Netflix show in the making. So whoever is listening, if your auntie got to connect, I'm like, there's a young Black shawty out here with a story to tell about Victor Green and Alma Duke and how they created the Green Book and how that led all of us to transpire from Jim Crow. It turned into a travel agency, and then it turned into a civil rights like staple. And then for somehow, some way, that gave way to me traveling the summers, you know, from California to Mississippi with the resources that we had, to where I'm able to travel the country, drive from California to Florida by myself with no fear, you know, to traveling to Brazil, to Nigeria. So I'm like, no, there's a story. So be on the lookout for that. What do they call it now? Multi-passionate,
faceted? No. Multi-passionate? No, did you just say that?
Yeah, I did. But what it like but you know how it's just like, we're tired of being put into a box. We have multiple things that we love. And I'm like, I'm about to become your favorite give me a mic. That's where I'm at in life. And you have my socials, and you're going to be featured on all my shit too, because I got shit to say. That's where we at in life.
Y'all, this is a privilege. This is just the beginning. You're going to see her anywhere, everywhere. And honestly, the Netflix special, if y'all have the privilege of watching Janiece's stories, it is a treat. It is a treat. The detail, the effort that she puts in to taking the people that follow you to your experience. Like, literally, when I'm watching your stories and your pictures and you're detailing on it, I feel like I'm there and I don't want to leave. Sometimes I go back and I'm like, what was that? Where was that at? Where'd she go? It's incredible. And I feel like a lot of people are going to feel, I'm going to say, enlightened. And I mean that in the most honest, like, non-cringy way. It's not, it's not like some crazy thing, but just enlightened, enriched. For real.
Well, the goal and the hope is that people feel inspired to tell their own story. Mm-hmm. When I say, like, I work with people because I get to witness incredible people doing incredible things, it's not about duplicating others and trying to, duplicate other formulas. It's like, let me run my race in hopes that others are inspired to run theirs. Because there's a lot of people not running their races. And that's why I'm like, I don't want to work for Disney no more. I don't want to work for no Fortune 500 company when there's people in our community, immediate community, who have genius ideas, who just don't have the resources, who didn't go to school for certain things, who don't know how to file an LLC, who need a cheerleader to be like, keep going. Invest in your marketing, invest in your resources. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You're worth it.
I love that. Yeah, no, I love that. And you're good at it. You are. And I'm so excited. Y'all stay tuned. More coming. Dark Sugar Podcast out.